Number 10. These Are the Days of Our Lives Queen. On September 5, 1991, Freddie Mercury's 45th birthday celebration, the melody These Are the Days of Our Lives was discharged in the US. After Mercury's passing on November 24, 1991, the melody was discharged in Ireland and the UK on 9 December. The tune is hailed as the most noteworthy single off Queen's collection, Innuendo, as the video going with it shows film of Mercury while he was as yet alive. The video was shot in high contrast, trying to veil the seriousness of Mercury's falling apart well-being. As the last notes blur and the music video winds to a nearby, Freddie Mercury says, "I despite everything love you," while taking a gander at the camera. This would wind up being his final words recorded on camera. The music video was included during the Freddie Mercury tribute concert the next year and was likewise played at the concert for Diana on July 1, 2007. Number 9. Circus. Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton co-wrote A Tears in Heaven and devoted it as a tribute to his 4-year-old child, Connor, who kicked the bucket in an oddity mishap in 1991. The day preceding Connor passed on, he and Eric visited a bazaar. Eric thought back during a meeting in 1998 that the carnival had 3 rings and wild creatures, and Connor had been entranced by the spectacle. Eric proceeded to compose the melody, Circus, in memory of the most recent night he got the chance to go through with his child. In the tune he makes reference to a jokester Connor discovered amusing, going around with a blade. Clearly Connor couldn't quit discussing in transit home. He thinks back in the verses how energized his child was about the occasion, and the tune communicates his distress over losing his lone kid. Eric played the widely praised tune live in 1992, preceding it was made accessible on record. Number 8. 3 AM by Matchbox. 3 AM by Matchbox 20 is one of those fundamental 90s melodies that can be found on aggregations and playlists pretty much any place, regardless of whether on plate or computerized. It was played to death on the radio when previously discharged in 1997. What generally thought to be simply one more tune about a young lady, ended up having an exceptionally dull backstory. Frontman, Rob Thomas, uncovered the motivation behind the tune during a meeting a couple of years back. He revealed to Genius.com that the verses were enlivened by his malignant growth-stricken mother, who he needed to think about at 13 years old. He additionally conceded that their relationship was to some degree loaded, and the expressions of the melody catches the wobbly unique they shared. He proceeded to state that as he thought back on composing the verses, he understood he had expounded a great deal on the sort of individual he needed his mom to be. Number 7. You Learn. Alanis Morissette. The 90s music scene would not have been finished without a decent aiding of Alanis Morissette's music. Her third studio collection, Jagged Little Pill, beat the diagrams in 13 nations and is extraordinary compared to other selling collections. Time. The collection won 5 Grammy grants and even brought forth a melodic stage creation in 2018. You Learn is one of the most famous tunes off the collection, yet the story behind it isn't also known as its verses. Morissette composed the melody when she was only 19 years of age and insinuated horrendous encounters in LA, which included being burglarized at gunpoint during the time she was dealing with the collection. She was hospitalized and experienced PTSD. Simultaneously, she likewise experienced a separation. She transformed the verses into an exercise about everything in life, likening to understanding. Taking a shot at the collection likewise helped her work through the injury of all that she had experienced. Number 6. Have You Forgotten Daryl Worley? At the point when 9/11 crushed America, it appeared that the nation could never be the equivalent again. Many composed pieces about the catastrophe saw the light on the web, and numerous melodies were expounded on it too. For Daryl Worley and Win Varble, it appeared that their solid feeling of misfortune and energy wasn't shared by others. They plunked down and composed the melody Have You Forgotten, and it turned into the greatest hit of Daryl Worley's career. Worley said during a meeting that he originated from a military family and he had been presented to war wounds and misfortune since the beginning. He did a visit in Afghanistan directly after the war began and saw a huge number of American banners flown in solidarity. After 14 days the banners were no more. Number 5. Never Learn Not to Love the Beach Boys. The Beach Boys are a permanent piece of the music business. What some may not know, be that as it may, is that the late Dennis Wilson, prime supporter and drummer, had a bizarre, if brief companionship with religion pioneer, Charles Manson. Manson even lived in Wilson's home for some time, before he and his faction submitted a few homicides. The Beach Boys discharged Never Learn Not to Love as the B-side on their Bluebirds Over the Mountain single in 1968, and it was uncovered a while later that the melody was a changed rendition of verses and music composed by Charles Manson, initially titled Stop to Exist. Manson surrendered his credit on the melody for a cruiser, and Cash yet was exceptionally angry when he discovered his unique verses had been changed. A year after the melody was discharged, Manson and his religion submitted the exceptionally broadcasted Tate LaBianca murders, for which he was initially condemned to death. Number 4. Cassie Flyleaf. On April 20, 1999, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold killed 12 of their kindred understudies and one instructor at Columbine High School. They at that point continued to end it all. One of the killed understudies, Cassie Renee Bernal, was shot in the head by Eric Harris, purportedly after he asked her whether she had confidence in God, and she addressed yes. This situation, which has prompted a ton of contention in light of the fact that many saw Bernal as a Christian saint, has additionally filled in as the motivation for a few melodies, including Cassie by Flyleaf. Blank Page is an American Christian stone metal band, and they composed the tune to honor Cassie Bernal's life and martyr's passing. The verses to the melody include, "All heads are bowed peacefully," to recollect her last sentence. She addressed him, recognizing what might occur, her final words despite everything lingering palpably. Number 3. Zombie, the Cranberries. Zombie is seemingly the most well-known tune that the Cranberries at any point discharged. While it appeared only a wonderful song of devotion at that point, it before long turned out to be certain that there was a lot further importance behind it. The late Dolores O'Riordan not just deserted the sweet hints of Linger and Dreams, she likewise belted out Zombie in Challenge the Viciousness in Northern Ireland, which saw 2 youngsters murdered by bombs in Warrington City and handfuls more individuals harmed. The kids, 3-year-old Jonathan Ball and 12-year-old Tim Perry, had been looking for Mother's Day cards around when the bombs went off. Speaking about the melody's 1994 discharge, O'Riordan recalled the bombs and finding out about the kids' demises while in the UK. She composed the tune among visits, and it was discharged as the lead single from the band's second studio collection, No Need to Argue. Number 2. John Wayne Gacy, Jr. Sufjan Stevens. There is no confusing this melody, as the title alone discloses to all of you have to know. With verses like "His dad was a consumer and his mom cried in bed," collapsing youthful John's shirts when the swing set hit his head, the tune centers around sequential executioner John Wayne Gacy's early stages before heightening to his deadly tendencies. Gacy was hit in the head by a swing when he was 11, causing a blood clot to frame in his mind. Some psychiatrists accept the mishap could have adjusted his mind and assisted with building up his craving for homicide. Gacy was indicted for 33 killings, every single youngster, and was executed for his wrongdoings on May 10, 1994. Number 1. Pretty Corn. While Korn is notable for composing upsetting verses, none of them are very as upsetting as the ones that make up the tune Pretty, particularly since the verses were roused by a staggeringly dim backstory. Pretty is one of the tracks on Korn's third studio collection, Follow the Leader. Lead artist John Davis used to fill in as an examination right hand and recalled an occurrence during which the body of an infant was brought into the coroner's office. The infant was an 11-month-old young lady who had been assaulted and pounded the life out of by her dad. Both her legs had been broken and she appeared as though a disposed of toy doll. David proceeded to state that he had been seriously damaged by what he saw. He was around 18 at that point and had extreme bad dreams about the episode that kept on frequenting him very much into his grown-up life. Pretty was written in recognition of the young lady who lost her life in such a silly way.